What is going on, baseball fans? Welcome back to This Week in Baseball, Season 2, Episode 4. I am your host, Jordan Lazowski. I've got another great crew on with me. We've got a couple new faces to the podcast, Will, Arvin, and Jonathan Roy, and a returning face, Thatcher Zalewski. Boys, how we doing tonight?
Fantastic.
Doing well.
Very enthusiastic. I appreciate that.
Could be better if the Sox won, but
Could have been better if the Sox didn't have such a rough day today in general. Let's be honest with ourselves.
yeah.
But
Cardinals got the old sweep of the Pirates. Feeling pretty good about that.
nice end to your week, Jonathan. I can't believe I just called you Jonathan. J. Roy is rocking an excellent beard right now. If you're not watching it live,
Thank you, Wes. Thank you. You know, Phillies are trying to ruin my weekend, but it's just how it goes.
What's the score of that game? I don't even have it on.
8-4, top 8, 2 outs.
All right, so they are trying to ruin your weekend. So hopefully we can bring you a little fun in the form of a seventh inning stretch. Maybe I'll let you win this one. Who knows? Probably not. But
Hey, you owe me from last season. I don't know if you remember that.
I probably do owe you quite a bit from last season. I probably did not treat you too well. But we've got a good show as usual. We'll start with the standings updates. We'll let each of our panelists here give us their 60-second recap of what happened around the league. If you missed something, they're going to cover it for you. We'll go into our usual seventh inning stretch, 7 questions about various topics. Each of these wonderful gentlemen gives their opinion. And then we wrap up and we tell you what we're watching this week and what we think you should be watching this week. But let's jump right into it. If the season ended today, here's what the standings would look like. The AL East would be won by the Boston Red Sox. The AL Central, the Royals still stand at the top. The Oakland Athletics, after their rough start to the season, are now in first place in the AL West. The 2 wildcard teams out there would be the Chicago White Sox and the Seattle Mariners. The Seattle Mariners continuing to stay in things. The Blue Jays, the Yankees, those teams are not far behind out there, however. In the National League, the Nationals at just 500 are in first in the NL East. The Phillies right behind them, of course. In the NL Central, the Brewers have a 1-game lead over the Cardinals. And the Giants, shockingly, are your leading team in the NL West. Your 2 wildcard teams out there would be the Dodgers, no surprise there, and the Cardinals. So 3 of our 4 panelists here have teams in the playoffs right now. I'll give you guys a chance to just comment anything you heard based on the standings. I think the biggest thing for me is I had to do a double take when I was saying the Giants are in top the NL West right now.
I'm surprised the Padres aren't the second wild card team right now.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know the Cardinals were better than them right now.
Cardinals are a half game ahead
Yep.
of the Padres right now.
It's still a very tight race amongst both the AL and the NL, as it should be at this point. But
Yeah, I think we're just starting to hit that stretch where it's still very much small sample size season, but things are starting to look like they're going to stabilize a little bit. So we'll see how many of these teams are kind of for real and how many are just, on a hot streak right now.
and that's what you have a lot of fun talking about that first month is, hey, what's real, what isn't? And now as we turn the calendar to May, now you start trying to figure out, okay, now we see who's real, who's not. And that's both on the individual player side as well as the team side in both cases.
I'm very intrigued with the National East because the Nationals, as you said, Laz, the only team at 500 in the National League and they're first place. The Phillies, the Mets, and the Braves all expected to have a good season so far. All under 500, and the Braves are now 4th in the National League East. So I don't know if that's real or not, or it just seems like all these NL East teams are just kind of beating up on each other, and eventually one of the teams is going to break it out.
And you even look at those standings, you got even the last place Marlins just 2.5 games out. No one's pulled away yet, as evidenced by the fact that the leader out there is 500. So, J. Roy, maybe some good news for you at the end of the day when it comes to that. You as a Phillies fan, of course.
Lord willing, man. Lord willing.
Let's jump into Around the League in 60 seconds. We'll let each of these guys go. Tell us what we might have missed, what you should have seen throughout the league, and if you didn't, they're going to recap it for you. We will start where do I want to start? We'll start with J. Roy. What do you got for this week? What are your big news topics from around the week?
Awesome.
This week?
Yeah. So the Dodgers, been sliding lately. They continued that slide. They've lost 7 of their last 10. I think that's pretty shocking. They have one of the best lineups of all time. I expect that to turn around pretty quickly, but it is kind of interesting. Like we just mentioned, the NL East has continued to be the most mediocre division in the major leagues. There's no team that's really terrible. There's not a good team in that division yet so far either, though. Chris Bryant is the hottest player in Major League Baseball right now, which has excited me a lot. He hit his 8th and 9th home runs of the season today, bringing his weighted runs created plus up to 195. I think we might be seeing, a repeat of 2016 potential MVP season from Chris Bryant. We're going to talk about it later, but Bryce got hit in the face. That caused, a lot of uproar and stuff. And Alvarado got suspended 3 games for inciting a benches clearing brawl. Phillies will appeal that. And I think it's interesting. The Red Sox have continued to outperform expectations a little bit. I don't think a lot of people expected them to be in the lead in that division. And, it might not last long, but I do think it is interesting now just because everyone likes to meme the Red Sox for losing Mookie and all that. But, they're looking really strong so far.
Mm-hmm. You mentioned Chris Bryant, and I know you're a huge fan of his. I think that's been a very interesting comeback. I think there were a lot of people writing him off, and you're starting to see now it's usually not a great idea to write off a former MVP. We'll see how hot he can be, but at the same time, that's a solid month of baseball, and then some for him. Thatcher, what you got for the week?
All right, so like J. Roy said, there was a few bench clearing incidents this past week, and I like them.
Straight up, I like him.
I think it's fun. During COVID season might not be the best thing, but hey, I like the benches clearing stuff. The Royals are somehow still the first place team in the AL Central, which I know on the first week of the podcast I said that I don't think they're for real, and somehow here we are week 4 and they're still in first place. So we'll see how long that continues. The Yankees are starting to finally heat things up after at one point in the season having the worst record in, I know, the American League and even maybe baseball. So no one should be surprised that they're finally starting to put things together. We saw great performances from Kluber and Tyon just these past 2 days. And just overall, the AL is kind of a wildfire right now. No one's really set in stone in the standings, and everything's moving back and forth. But like Jay said, hopefully in these coming weeks, we start seeing things stabilize. And then with the NL, I just got the Dodgers are cooling down, which is surprising considering people had them maybe even breaking the win total record this year. And now they're kind of slowing down and on a losing skid a bit. And then other NL teams such as the Brewers and Giants are starting to go on runs, which I'm not surprised by the Brewers because that whole division was basically up for grabs except for the Pirates. And the Giants are a surprising team. Be interesting to see if they stay a contender or not.
Giants pitching has been incredible. And I think even as you mentioned some of the American League side, some of those names that were struggling early on in the season, the Yankees, even the Twins are starting to climb back and fight back a little bit. It's going to be interesting to see when things sort of quote unquote stabilize as we think they were supposed to be at the beginning of the season. No one's really pulling away in either division or in either league, in any division really. Not a lot we can tell on who's going to be steamrolling the league right now, and which makes it fun. Will, what you got?
So right now, the St. Louis Cardinals are the hottest team in Major League Baseball. 8-2 record in their last 10 games. Thankfully carried by their pitching staff, which has been better than expected. The offense still has a lot of work to do. It seems like they only want to produce runs for Jack Flaherty and no other starting pitcher in our rotation. But Cardinals are going on a bit of a run right now. When you're playing the Pittsburgh Pirates, it's kind of easy to do that. But had a tough series against the Phillies, back to the NL East, and I think this is pretty interesting. Besides the Miami Marlins, who have a +4 run differential, everybody else in the National League East has a -13 run differential or less. Not good. And then back to what y'all were saying about the American League East, I think this is probably going to be the most competitive division in baseball when it comes to the end of the season, because the Red Sox, Blue Jays, Yankees, and Rays are all 4 teams that look like they could be playoff teams, but there's only 3 playoff spots to grab out of those 4 teams. So it's going to be interesting. Who's going to be the odd one out?
Yeah, I think, when you look at the Cardinals, it's like that is a team that they're always competing. They're a team that when you see them playing well and competing for a division, you should not be surprised. I know, and then out there, the Brewers will probably give them the closest competition throughout the year, but I think that'll be a fun division. AL East is shaping up to be the most competitive, like you're saying, because if the Red Sox stay in it and you knew coming in the Blue Jays and Rays were going to be there, that's 4 out of the 5 teams that are competing for a division championship there. And that's the kind of return to form for baseball that so many who are anti-tanking would like to see, is more teams being competitive all throughout the year.
And even the Baltimore Orioles, where teams are kind of write them off, they're now they might not be competitive towards the end of the season, but I mean, right now they're only 3.5 games back, and it seems like the American League East is just switching spots pretty much every day.
I think that's key.
That's
too.
a crazy stat.
Oh,
go ahead, Laz.
Oh no, I was going to say.
Okay, yeah, I was going to say that's a crazy stat about the Marlins having the only positive run differential in the NL East, though, because they're last place in the division.
Yeah, if you're, I mean, that's why I like run differential, and I think it's something you need to be paying attention to. Early on, though, it's like you stand there and you're like, wait, that really just happened? Is that really what's going on right now? And I think that is a really cool stat right there. Let's jump into 7th inning stretch, because I think you guys covered it. You cover most of the big topics here, and the other ones you didn't cover, we're already going to be talking about in these 7 questions. So you know the drill. I ask you 7 questions. You each give me your responses, and I arbitrarily award points. And I think in future weeks, we'll change this up a little bit. We're doing something a little different. We've got some exciting things planned for this week in baseball, but we're sticking with the same rules as usual. I think, Will, this is your first time ever, so good luck to you on this. I'm not necessarily fair, and that's okay.
That's good.
But here we go. First question, inning number 1. This week, Rockies GM Jeff Burdich stepped down and was reassigned in the organization. Let's pretend each of you is the new Rockies GM. What are 3 moves you'd make to start this team down the right path again? Because as is very evidenced by some of the deals this offseason, especially, Rockies aren't in a good place right now. We'll start with Jay Roy. What you got?
Yeah. So if I'm the Rockies GM, I'm tearing everything down. I'm starting fresh. I'm getting rid of anyone that's of any value. So first move I would make, I would get rid of Trevor Story. I would ship him off somewhere. I would maybe ship him to the Philadelphia Phillies, and they might be able to throw a package together for him. Maybe Spencer Howard, a couple other first rounders. They do have some decent prospects in that system. Maybe throw Scott Kingery in there because I wouldn't really mind seeing him go too much. So that could be a potential move. I think that could work for both teams. We could see, and I think German Marquez getting shipped is another really, really likely thing. Honestly, I think the Angels would be a really interesting spot for him because I do think they have a bunch of different pieces they can move for him. Maybe Jared Walsh, maybe Reed Detmers, the bigwig prospect they got last year from the draft that every Angels fan seems to be in love with. And maybe even someone like Joe Adele. I think that could be a really, really interesting move. Maybe throw some packages together around any one of those players for German Marquez, who is, a really, really talented pitcher. I think also maybe a team like the Braves could really benefit from Marquez, because they're struggling a little bit in the early going. I think they could benefit from some more pitching. I think maybe someone like Christian Pache in a package for someone like Marquez, that could work. So yeah, bottom line though, if I'm the Rockies, I'm trying to rebuild. I'm trying to get as many young prospects as I can, and we're looking towards the future.
I think it makes complete sense there. Will, what you got?
Kind of the same opinion as Jay Roy, because this Rockies farm system is not good, and they did not acquire much of anything of decent value for Nolan Arenado. By the way, thank you, Jeff Burdich, for Nolan Arenado and a free $50 million. I really appreciate it. Anyway, so right now the Rockies have the 27th ranked farm system in baseball, and they only have one top 100 prospect, Zach Veen, who was their 9th overall pick in the draft last year. pretty much he's their only prospect worth much of anything. So kind of like what J-Roy was saying, I feel like Story being dealt has to be a must because he's a free agent after this year. And if the Rockies don't get anything for Trevor Story, then that's kind of a problem. I think Marquez will be terrific somewhere else outside of Coors Field. John Gray as well. Maybe someone like Ryan McMahon could be dealt for some value. But this Rockies farm system is just so bad. They need a complete overhaul of the farm system if they really want to have any sort of future whatsoever.
Thatcher.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat with all of them here. My first thing would, of course, call around the league and see who puts together the best package for Story. I wouldn't be surprised if the Yankees threw up Glaber for him because they're in a winning year now, like especially with them starting off so slow. I think a Story trade could definitely help them impact their lineup and put them at the top of the AL East. And giving up Glaber would definitely help the Rockies and Yankees on both parties. Now, Glaber is a valuable asset to both teams, but if that's what gets it done, then I would do it. And then, of course, Marquez and any other quality arms you can find on the Rockies. Bound to bring back some decent prospects. Might not be like top 100 guys, but it could bring back some young teenagers that can help explode your system better. And then I would eat majority of Blackman's salary and find anyone who's willing to take him. You're already giving up $50 million to trade away Arenado. I mean, you might as well eat up more money at this point. So I'd see who's interested in Blackman, especially maybe now the White Sox losing two of their outfielders to injury. They could be interested as well. So that's what I would do.
Yeah, you look up and down that roster. There's a lot of guys who are they're either on bad contracts or they're at the end of their contracts. If you're the Rockies' next GM, you do not have a favorable position at all. And I think that's going to be the biggest thing is just assessing the talent you have and just finding a way to maximize what little value is still left in some of these guys. And that's kind of where they got to go on this one. Y'all made good arguments. I'll give the rookie and Will the lead here so he can get himself started on the right foot. And then we'll see how these next couple questions go here.
It might be going downhill from here, but who knows?
At least I gave you the good start, though. That's all I can do.
Hey, there you go.
Let's go to inning number 2 here. The Pioneer League has announced it will have a home run derby to settle ties instead of extra innings. Now, given the fact that we know the Pioneer League is a sort of test league for Major League Baseball, what are your thoughts on seeing this in the future in Major League Baseball? We'll start with the winner, Will.
See, I just don't understand why Major League Baseball really needs to shake up extra innings. Like last year, I understood the runner on second rule because they needed to get a lot of games in a short amount of time. So this was an effective way to get games done quickly. But the fact that they kept it this year is ridiculous because it is a terrible rule, especially for 162 games. Teams are going to get a lot of cheap wins out of this, which is going to come back to haunt a few teams that are going to miss out on the playoffs. But for a home run derby to settle ties, now it does bring in entertainment value, which could be a route that Major League Baseball would be interested in. I don't think that they will consider this as a actual thing that they would change, but I do think that just testing it out for a year just to kind of see how it works, see what the fan reaction is, I don't think it's that much of a risk, especially for the Pioneer League, because as you said, it's just like a test league for Major League rules. So in the minor leagues, I think it would be kind of fun, but for Major League, I would never see it happening.
Thatcher?
Yeah, I think it's a fun idea, but it should not be implemented into the MLB. Because, imagine if it's a Game 7 World Series that goes into extra innings and then it's decided upon a home run derby. That just kind of, bores the game from us at that point. It's like, you got this exciting Game 7 between you don't know what team's going to win. It's back and forth, and then just home run derby, and then someone has a bad swing, and then that team lost World Series. And a lot of teams don't really build their rosters around only power hitters. So you're going to have a lot of teams having contact guys. Imagine if it's based on who made the last out. So the Sox would have Nick Madrigal starting things off for the Thumb. It's I love Nick Madrigal, but he's not a home run hitter. So they're basically probably lost that game because they have Nick Madrigal up against the Yankees who have Stanton up or Judge. And it's like, I don't also understand. It's like, how do they decide who's pitching and from where exactly? Is it like the MLB like home run derby where they're just kind of lobbing them in there and it's just whoever they want to pitch? Or is it like you pick someone from your bullpen to pitch or a starter or someone? And if it's actually from the 60 distant mound or whatever. But yeah, just again, I think it's a fun idea, but just overall keep it away from Major League Baseball.
I don't appreciate the Nick Madrigal in the home run derby image you just left in my mind. So thank you for that, Thatcher. J. Roy, what you got?
Yeah, first of all, I'll just say the thought of Nick Madrigal in a home run derby is hilarious to me. It reminds me of like Ricky Weeks being in the home run derby a few years ago. Like that's just hilarious. But yeah, I'm not a fan of this rule. I think that they're trying to do a little bit too much here, you know. For the record, I was not really opposed to the runner on second season. I thought it was kind of a fun, interesting thing, kind of resembled the NFL's, you know, kind of sudden death overtime thing. I wouldn't say I was necessarily a fan of it, but I did think that in the shortened season last year was a good thing to experiment with. I don't like the fact that it's still in the major leagues this season. I think, you know, it was a one-time experiment thing that was kind of okay. We don't really need to do it anymore. Yeah, but to then take this even further and be like, okay, we're gonna do a home run derby. Like, it just seems very extra. Seems like the Pioneer League's trying to do a little bit too much. You know, I really haven't been a fan of a lot of the things they've been doing lately. Like, I don't think moving the mound back, like, you know, obviously that's a separate issue, but I don't think that's a good idea either. So yeah, I'm really not a fan of this.
I'm going to be honest. I was completely expecting Jay Roy to come in and be the complete contrarian here and say he loved it. And I'm completely disappointed by that. And for that reason, you can't get a point here because you disappointed me without even knowing it. Thatcher's going to get the point because you mentally left me with Nick Madrigal hitting in a home run derby. And if that's not any reason to not have this league instituted, I don't know what is. So congratulations on that one, Thatcher.
About that.
The thought of having Nick Madrigal have to hit for the team to win a game with playoff ramifications is enough to deter me from ever wanting this rule to be implemented.
I just don't understand why Major League Baseball would like consider such a gimmicky rule in the first place. Like if that gets added in, like that's ruining integrity of the game at that point.
Right. And I mean, the thing too, you see like with hockey, when they move to a shootout, they don't score it the same way. Like if you lose in a shootout, it's not the same way you lose in a game, like because they've so fundamentally changed the structure of the sport of hockey. They're like, we can't, what's the word I'm looking for? We can't basically penalize you in the same way we penalize you for losing a game normally. And for Major League Baseball to even do this now with the runner on second rule, and then to take it a step further with a home run derby and say, okay, all these wins or all these losses are exactly the same, whether you lost in the 9th, in the 10th inning with the runners on, or in a home run derby. Like now you're screwing with the integrity of the game.
And kind of back on that topic of the hockey shootout, I think Kasabi made a article kind of about this. If baseball incorporated the hockey point system where, you know, hockey has overtime losses. So with that shootout, I feel like teams are okay with losing in a shootout because they're guaranteed a point anyway. But it's not. But baseball's not like that. You know, if you lose, you lose. You don't get anything in return.
Right. And especially have to lose that way now. That would be again a whole other level.
Yeah.
Losing on a home run derby, and you can get unlucky and have like the bottom part of your order come up or something. It would also kind of depend on how it works.
Right. I think there's a lot to consider there, but at the same time, at the end of the day, if you're not going to fundamentally change how scoring or wins and losses go in baseball, like you can't so fundamentally change the game that a home run derby now is the same as losing a 4-3 nail biter in 9 innings. Like that just will not compute with people. And that's what it comes down to.
Yeah, I think that like if that rule was implemented and it was around for a long enough time, I think like non-home run hitters would just get phased out of the game. Yeah. Like who would want to sign, you know, a guy who slugs less than like 500 every year? Like, why would you want a guy who like you wouldn't, you know? So I'm not a fan of it.
You're pushing it in the wrong way. You want the theatrics, but at the same time, you can't push people so far away. They're like, this is not baseball. I think that's what it comes down to.
Yeah.
Let's move to inning 3. This will be a popular question for at least 2 of the people on this panel this evening. This week, there was some bad blood that boiled over between the Cardinals and the Phillies as Bryce Harper and Didi Gregorius let me rephrase that. Between the Cardinals and Phillies, as Bryce Harper and Didi Gregorius were hit by Cardinals pitcher Genesis Cabrera on consecutive pitches. Harper himself was hit in the face, as Jay Roy mentioned earlier. What are your takes on this situation? Should Cabrera have been thrown out? And what are the long-term impacts of this game, if any, between the two teams? We'll let the neutral observer Thatcher go first, and then we'll let the Phillies and Cardinals fan go at it and see what happens here. Thatcher, go ahead.
So my take on this was that Cabrera is a known pitcher who struggles with command, and I don't think those hit by pitches were really intentional on his end. And you can see his reaction after he hit Harper. He realized the pitch hit Harper in the face. He was visibly upset with himself and that he did not want to do that. And Bryce Harper himself said like he knows it was not intentional, and he like called or texted Cabrera to let him know that like he knows like he didn't do that on purpose, and like to help him mentally to like make sure he knows there's like no bad blood between the two sides there. So I don't really think this will be any big like rivalry going forward between the two teams. Maybe if it like happens again, maybe we start seeing some more blood start boiling between the two sides. But overall, right now, I think it's kind of just like a heat of the moment issue between the two sides.
Jay Roy, what you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a really, even keeled level of take, Thatcher. Obviously I hate seeing stuff like that happen. When Bryce got hit in the face, that's a terrible thing to happen to any player, especially if that happens to, my favorite player. But I think it's not really important whether it was intentional or not. I think it's indicative of a larger issue within the game. I don't think that the league has done a very good job of protecting hitters in the box. I think this really became apparent like a couple years ago, or I guess it was last year, after that whole Astros thing, when everyone was like, yeah, we're going to go throw out the Astros. And it was obviously, regardless of what you think about the Astros, like, I don't think we should make it just completely okay to just be like, oh, you broke some unwritten rule, like we're going to throw at you. We see so many injuries nowadays. Like, I don't know why we would want to risk more of those and pitchers throw harder than ever now. Like, why do we want people throwing at an opposing hitter's head, shoulders, even like down low on them? Like, I don't think it's a good thing, and I think that Cabrera probably, it's tough to say whether he should have gotten thrown out or not. I think once he hit Didi afterwards, like I probably would have, erred on the side of caution, thrown him out, just because like, you want to protect the hitters. I think if you're going to err on the side one way or another, you want to be, show like, okay, as a major league pitcher hurling a baseball 100 miles an hour, you cannot just, you can't just throw at a major league hitter. So that's kind of my take on it. Like Thatcher said, I don't think it was I don't really think it was intentional. I just think it's kind of an unfortunate situation. And I don't think it'll have a ton of long-term impact. I think, Bryce might get a little scared going in the box next time he plays the Cardinals. But aside from that, I really don't want it to be, a big thing. I hope we can kind of forget about it. Maybe the league learns something from it and we don't have these kinds of incidents happen too often in the future.
And Will?
I think the big takeaway out of this is that this shows how bad the 3-batter minimum rule is, because after Didi Gregorius got hit, Cabrera should have been pulled out of the game regardless, whether or not you believe he should have been ejected. But after he hit Gregorius, that should have been a sign that Cabrera should not be pitching in this game anymore. But of course he couldn't, because he only faced 2 batters. So he had to face one more. And I can't what happened for that only. I don't know if the Phillies tied the game or not. But so I think that is an important part of it, is the fact that it shows how bad the rule is. But I don't think there's any bad blood between the two teams, because they just played their last series of the year. So they won't meet each other again unless they meet in the playoffs. But as they've said before, as much as I've seen Genesis Cabrera before, as nasty as his stuff is, he throws triple digits, but his control is a big issue. And that's been known for a long time. So, It wasn't. I don't think it was intentional at all. I think it was just a freak accident. And even Mike Schilt himself said that, a lot of people need to respect Bryce Harper and look up to him for going out, reaching out to Cabrera, letting him know everything's okay. So I don't think there's any bad blood. I think the Phillies hit Arenado the last game of the series to just kind of get it over with. So I think the whole ordeal is kind of over with. But I think there are some things that can come out of the situation, like I've said before, with like this kind of just shows how bad the 3-batter minimum rule is. And that's kind of what I have to say.
Will's going to get the point because I like the 3-batter minimum. Awesome. Slander on that. I think you're right. I think it's a very clear case of, you want that guy out of the game at that point. If you're not going to throw him out, I don't need him hitting another guy and loading the bases and screwing me over.
Yeah, it affects both sides because, as Jay Roy said, the league probably has to do a better job of protecting the batters. And with this 3-batter minimum rule, you have the guy who cannot throw a baseball in the strike zone, and he's already hit 2 straight batters. Right. So that already affects the team that's pitching because they just put 2 free runners on base, and now you're putting other hitters in harm.
And it's not even just like he's a guy who's wild and can't find the strike zone. He can't find the strike zone, and he's hitting guys as a result. Like, yeah, you don't need 3 batters to figure that one out. Like, get him out of the game, move on. Let's go. Let's not lose a ball game because of this. And I think you bring up a very good point there. Nice of you guys to be so civil in this conversation too.
I'm not a bad Cardinals fan. I keep trying to tell all of you this. I'm not a bad Cardinals fan. I am reasonable.
I appreciate you both being very reasonable about this too.
I'm reasonable when I want to be.
When it calls for you to be reasonable, you are. I appreciate that.
When I have to get in front of the camera,
when I gotta make sure when I'm on with you and you gotta make sure to keep things in line. I hear you. I appreciate that about you, Jay Roy. Don't worry.
I'm surprised you even had a Cardinals topic in here, Les.
Hey, you know what? When I know who's on the panel, I gotta make sure to keep it relevant as much as I can, just in case.
I appreciate that.
Hey, that's why they pay you the big bucks.
Exactly. Inning 4, White Sox center fielder Luis Robert left Sunday's game with a right hip flexor strain. I had to think about how I was going to say that. Right hip flexor strain. While there is no specific timeline yet for his injury or his recovery, what does this injury do to the White Sox chances of playoff baseball this year, especially already after losing Eloy Jimenez? Now, your answer to this question might depend on how much you thought the Sox were going to be in the playoffs beforehand anyway, and I completely recognize that. But we'll start with the White Sox fan, Thatcher.
So, yeah, I definitely think this injury hurts the White Sox going forward. Now, they do have 2 off days this upcoming week, but it definitely does hurt them because we don't know how long Robert's going to be out for. And Tony La Russa said already he's going on the IL. So, and Luis Gonzalez is coming up as the replacement. Now, Luis Gonzalez had no at-bats at the major league level. So we really don't know how he's going to fare. And he was starting to heat up Robert. He was playing a big factor in the lineup wherever he was hitting, whether it's the 7-hole or the 2-hole, which he's mostly been seen at this year. And now Adam Engel is coming back soon, and he will be able to replace the defense missing from Robert in center field, outfield. His bat won't be the same as Robert's, and so I had an idea that they do go out and trade for a bat to help replace this lack of offensive production they're going to be missing. And my candidates were I've mentioned earlier: Charlie Blackmon, Anthony Santander, Joey Gallo, maybe even Bryant, and Les, your favorite, Mitch Haniger.
I am a huge Mitch Haniger fan. I would do a lot of things to have Mitch Haniger on the South Side. But yes, unfortunate that we even have to talk about this situation. Jay Roy.
Yeah, so I was actually really, really high on the White Sox coming into the season. I actually picked them to be in the World Series. And, the injury bug has kind of got me reconsidering that a little bit. But obviously, ultimately, that'll depend how long Robert is out for. I still think that this is a pretty strong roster. Mercedes has obviously been lighting it up. Moncada's been playing well. Jose Abreu has not looked like his MVP self yet. And Grandal, I think, has struggled a little bit. But I think those two will turn it around. They do have some pretty good arms that I still am pretty confident in. I think in the early going, Kopech's been awesome. Right now he's striking out 44% of hitters, I think. Giolito, Lance Lynn, Keuchel. I think that these guys are all really, really solid options. I think honestly, I feel better about their pitching right now than I do about their hitting. I think what Thatcher said was really interesting. I think if they go out and get a bat, they can mitigate a lot of the damage that's done here, and they'd be right back in the swing of things. They could, in a month, they could be leading the AL Central with a comfortable lead. So I don't think White Sox fans should really panic too much as long as the front office makes a move or two. And I think Chris Bryant to, the South Side, as you said, would be really cool to see. Santander is a really interesting one who I had not considered, but I think that would be another pretty good fit. I do think they have a lot of options. There's a lot of people they could go out and make a move for. So I still say I'm pretty high on the White Sox.
And Will.
I too predicted the White Sox to be in the World Series. I'm still pretty confident in them. I also think it helps that they have a favorable division as well, because, maybe Kansas City can keep it up. I'm not sure. Cleveland is fairly average, but their pitching staff's all right. Detroit's Detroit. Minnesota's gotten off to a slow start, but they have a talent to kind of pick it back up. But I think back to what J-Roy was saying, I think this pitching staff is really going to carry this team because, despite Giolito's kind of had 2 straight blow-up starts a little bit, but besides that, Giolito's been really good. Rodon and Lance Lynn both have, FIPS around 2, and also Rodon threw a no-hitter. Lance Lynn came back today too, didn't he?
He was back Saturday, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, he's back. Kopech's been amazing. But I think the offense really does need to pick it up. Only Mercedes and Tim Anderson have OPSs over 800 right now. Jose Bareilles not looking like himself. So I kind of agree on the fact that I feel like if they get one bat sometime during the trade deadline, then it could really help because, depending on the timeline of Robert, if you get another bat and Robert comes back, then I think you're kind of geared up for a run there.
And you knew it was going to be a shift towards run prevention rather than run scoring as soon as Jimenez went out. Back when you started the year, I think it only takes it to another level. Each of you is going to get a point here. Thatcher mentioning Mitch Haniger is like a free point on this podcast at this point. And J-Roy and Will both saying you picked the White Sox to go to the World Series and are high on the team in general. Completely arbitrary. And
there you go.
I'm the White Sox fan, and that's just how it's going to be. So
I'll take it.
I think you're all absolutely right, though. I think, with the pitching staff really holding its own and then some, it's going to be go get that bat to make sure that what has been a fairly lackluster offense so far begins to start to pick it up. And that's, if they don't, 162, you're going to fizzle pretty fast, especially if you got 2 of your top outfielders out, 2 top players in the game at that. Inning 5, fact or fiction? Mets fans should be worried about what their April performance means for the rest of the season. If you are unfamiliar with how the Mets are doing currently, they are 10-11. Now that's going to change one way or another based on the result of the Sunday Night Baseball game. But they are only a half game back in the NL East, but fans seem to be worried. Should they be? We will start with Phillies fan, J-Roy.
I'm kind of split on this question, but I'm going to lean no. I don't think that they should be super worried. They've started off atrociously on offense, but I do think some of this will turn around pretty soon. Nimmo, JD Davis, and Conforto have all been, kind of okay for their standards, but I do think that they'll all turn it around. Dom Smith's been good. I think that the only true player that's been like abysmal is Lindor, and I've gone on record saying that I don't think Francisco Lindor is that good of an offensive baseball player, but he's going to turn around. He's not going to continue to be 50% below league average. And at the end of the day, their pitching is what really, really encourages me. DeGrom's going to continue to be historic. We have zero reason to think otherwise. Stroman's been all right so far. Taijuan Walker, Miguel Castro, they've all been fine, and Edwin Diaz is actually looking more and more like he was that great season when he was with the Mariners, when he was like, arguably the best reliever in the world. And so, yeah, I'm not too worried about them, especially because the Nationals are not a good baseball team. The Phillies, by the way, Rhys Hoskins just hit a 3-run home run in the bottom of the ninth to tie the game. This is insane. Okay. The Phillies just saying, the Phillies aren't really a good baseball team. The Braves, who I actually picked to win the division, have not looked super great so far. So it's still anyone's division, and I think the Mets can still maybe even run away with the NL East.
Thatcher?
Yeah, I went with fiction on this one as well, just based on the fact that lots of teams struggle early in the season, like the other team in New York, the Yankees. Now, yeah, I didn't have the Mets winning the division either, but I still think they will be fine. I had the Braves winning it, but I think they'll be fine. The standings are always wild to start the year, and even though Mets fans may be overrating their cold start, they will come around as a team and just put it all together and start playing competitive winning baseball again.
Will?
I have the opposite opinion. I do believe the Mets fans should be worried because this offense is awful. They are 13th in the National League in OPS, last in slugging, home runs, and doubles. Now, their pitching is good, but if their offense can't score any runs, what's good pitching going to help you? And I think the Braves are going to pick up the slack at some point, and I think the Braves offense is just significantly better than the New York Mets right now.
Mm-hmm.
Acuna, Freeman, Ozuna, Albies, Swanson. I think the Braves are a deeper lineup than the Mets, and I think with what J. Roy said, I don't think Lindor is going to be this bad, throughout the whole season. But they only have 3 qualified hitters over 700 OPS right now, and it is not looking good for this offense. And if they can't score any runs for their pitching staff, then it's just going to be more losses for good pitching outings that are just being thrown to waste.
And it's a testament, first of all, to even the pitching staff that they're still 10-11. They could have been 11-11, but as J. Roy let us all know, they blew the lead in the bottom of the 9th inning.
And what's funny is that usually the Mets is that the problem is that their bullpen stinks, their pitching stinks, and their offense is usually able to carry the slack. But it's the complete opposite this year. Aside from what literally just happened. Actually, the home run just got overturned, I believe.
Yeah.
The home run just got overturned.
This is a wild set of events right now.
Yeah, what's going on in this game?
Okay, well, Bryce is up, so.
So anyway, their bullpen has actually been good. Trevor May's been a solid addition. Miguel Castro's been a nice surprise. Edwin Diaz has come back nicely. So, if the pitching is able to stay consistent and their offense is just able to pick it up just a little bit, then I think they'll be okay. But from how it looks right now and from what I project the Braves to do in the next few months, I don't think this is a recipe for success for the Mets right now.
So they did overturn the homer. I want to get that clear.
Yes, they did. It didn't really look
what
like
happened.
Overturned to me, but
I don't know. It's 8-7.
I'm going to have to, because of that, and that's why I asked, I have to give the point to J. Roy because just the wind of emotions he had to go through in just that one question is far too much to not get a point there. And I'm sincerely sorry for what you just had to go through because you were so excited when you started.
Dude, oh my gosh. It was like 2 outs, bottom of the 9th. But Bryce is up now, so we'll see. It's not disaster yet.
You were just so genuinely excited, and I feel bad that I got to give you the point there. But I actually do kind of fall near the middle. I see exactly what Will's saying about the offense. I think when you see some of the usual suspects though that are struggling, Conforto being one of them, I think they'll be better. I think they'll probably fall to the sky high expectations people had on them, which is just the sky high expectations is what it is. But at the same time, I think for them to be 10-11 without anybody really contributing on offense, I think is a testament to how good the staff might be. And, once guys start to go back to career norms, where they might be able to fall. I don't think it's an easy division by any stretch of the word, though. Inning 6. Once the minor league baseball season starts, Wander Franco will start in AAA for the Rays, according to multiple reports. Now, he is, of course, the top prospect in baseball, one of the few, if maybe the only, to ever get an 80 grade as a prospect. People love this guy and think he's going to be incredible. So the question, obviously, is how soon could we see him in the majors, and what does this mean for the future of a guy like Willy Adames, who has been a mainstay for the Rays for a while, hasn't really lit it up this year? What does it mean for him? What does it mean for other guys on that roster? We'll start with Will.
So first off, I just want to say Willy Adames is atrocious right now. I think his
Yeah.
OPS is hovering a little bit around 500 right now. Cannot hit a baseball for a lick. So I think that Wander Franco getting time in AAA is going to help a lot, because I don't know how much minor league experience he kind of has to begin with, because he's already lost a season from last year, and he didn't come up last year when a lot of people thought he would. So I think him starting on AAA is going to be good for him. And honestly, I think him is good for the Rays because their offense as a whole is fairly average. I think Joey Wendell has been their best player this year, and I think he's severely underrated. Joey Wendell is a pretty damn good baseball player. But I think Wander Franco is going to be able to contribute better than what Willy Adames has right now. But their offense as a whole kind of meh. So I think Wander Franco's probably going to be able to contribute at some point this year.
J-Roy?
Yeah, I agree. I don't watch as much Rays baseball as I probably should, but yeah, Willy Adames has been atrocious. He's not walking, he's striking out a lot. And just not really much good there. He is a plus defender at the position, but still, even though he's been a mainstay for them last couple of years, I think you want to get Wander up as soon as possible. I don't really see any reason to keep holding him down in AAA. I think to get him some reps, before potentially get him, good, solid midseason reps before, they might be in the postseason this year. So before he gets to see some really, really solid postseason pitching, I think, bring this guy up. This is historic for the entire league. This is one of the best prospects we've ever seen. I think it just makes the league more fun. It makes, I think it might give a little jolt to that Rays offense too, a little bit. Yeah, I'm all for bringing him up as soon as possible.
And Thatcher.
Yeah, I think the Rays will call him up as soon as they want to see him up there with their big league guys. I personally think they wait at least a full month of minor league ball to see how he fares down in AAA before making any decisions. And I think he will see big league time this year because he's going to be a good player. He's the number one prospect in baseball. So now with Adames, he has been bad this year, but he has proved he can be serviceable in the past. So I think they'll find a trade partner and get some random prospects back that will eventually become the next Willy Adames for them. It's bound to happen with the Rays.
If the Rays call you and ask you for one of your players, you hang up the phone and ask why they want that player. That's exactly what's going to happen. Thatcher, I got to give you the point on that. That's an incredible explanation for what's going to happen to Willy Adames. And you're absolutely right on all three accounts, though, that, this is an exciting player. And I think this is someone who we should want to see as soon as possible. J-Roy, did something just happen?
Bryce just took a very questionable pitch, but they called it a ball. Thank goodness. I thought that was strike 3 to end the game.
I'm just watching the emotions flow through you as we record this, and I'm enjoying this.
That was definitely a strike. He just got saved. So.
Oh, God. Inning 7. Let's wrap this one up here. Baseball will soon announce their AL and NL Player of the Month. Who would you choose, both at the position player and pitcher level? We will start with J-Roy.
Okay, so on the AL side of things, I feel like everyone is going to want to pick the best player, of this generation. But I'm going to go with Byron Buxton. Buxton has been phenomenal. This guy is one of the most exciting players in the league. I've stayed this guy forever. And so it's awesome to just see things actually pan out for him. I think he's incredible for the game of baseball. I love watching him play. Oh, Bryce just went down. Game over. Okay. Got to compose myself. Okay, so for March and April, Buxton slashed 426, 466, 897. He's put up 2.4 wins above replacement in the early going. He's been an absolute statistical monster, doing it in the field, on the base paths, and in the batter's box, of course. So yeah, I definitely I would give the award to Buxton. I think he's got a good shot at the MVP this year. You want me to go ahead and give NL?
Yeah, keep going.
Yeah. So NL, I'm going to go with Acuna. I think Ronnie has been incredible in the early going. His xFLOBA is over 500 right now, which is wild. He's OPS well over 1.1 right now. He's been worth 2 wins above replacement, which obviously is insane. And I was tempted to give this to Bryant, but I actually think Acuna will sustain this success more likely over the course of the season than Bryant probably will. So, yeah, and I want to see Acuna get some love, so I'm going to go with him.
Anything on the pitcher side? Or you just want to guess position players?
Yeah, okay.
You can do both. If you don't have both, that's fine. I was just asking.
Okay, that's a good question. I know pitcher of the month. I would definitely go DeGrom.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd go DeGrom over Corbin Burns. Pretty close, but I'll go with him. He's been historic. I think you could argue this best start to a season. Maybe I don't know if that's statistically accurate, but he just tied Nolan Ryan's record for the most through 55 Ks through I don't remember how many starts it was.
Mm-hmm.
On the AL side, who's been really good? I don't know. That's a good question.
If you say Carlos Rodon, you might get a point here.
You know who's been awesome, Laz, is Carlos Rodon. He's lighting it up. Okay, yeah, I just thought of Cole. Yeah, Cole's been really good. But, Rodon, I think I'd give it to Rodon. I think he's been even better than Cole. I actually was looking at his stats earlier because we had a White Sox question. He legitimately, he's been great this year.
I don't think it's as clear cut in the AL, which is why I just kind of leaned you one way.
Yeah.
But...
No, yeah. Cole came to mind, and I was like, oh, yeah, he's been lighting it up.
Yeah. I think Buxton's a great choice for AL MVP. I shouldn't say that before. I don't want to sway anyone else on this panel, so I'll let Will go next.
So I did pick Byron Buxton as well. Not only is because he's doing really well, but MLB also never picks Mike Trout anyway. So it's almost bound to be Byron Buxton in the first place. I also picked Acuna for NL hitter. I did pick Corbin Burns for National League pitcher, and I put Shane Bieber for AL pitcher of the month.
I think the most fun matchup is going to be whether it's DeGrom or Burns or someone other than those two in the NL. I think that's the least clear-cut one of them.
Just the fact that Corbin Burns, I don't know if these stats are updated yet, but Baseball Reference currently says he has 49 strikeouts to no walks. I have no idea if that is correct, but that's nuts.
Right. To not have any
walks.
Yeah.
No walks.
Let's just say 3-4 starts. I mean, God forbid any more than that.
No walks in 29 and 1/3 innings so far.
That's impressive. Thatcher, who are you picking?
Sorry, my internet just froze on me. I don't know what happened, but
you're good here.
Okay, so it froze on my end. But for AL, I gotta go with the bias pick, Yermin Mercedes. He's my guy, and with the Sox being my favorite team, I've got to show some bias towards them. I will give nods to Buxton, Trout, JD Martinez, and Ohtani they've all put up great months this year and shown that they're all could be MVP candidates. And I gotta go with Mercedes because he's just a random guy that probably won't win a month in his career again unless he continues raking this year. So let's give him the award. As Trout's already got a ton of them, probably. So, and on the NL, it was a tough call, but I'm going with Bryce Harper. I was looking at his stats earlier, and I was actually very impressed with him. His OPS is currently at a 1,063. He's got an OBP of 448, which is starting to look like he could be replicating his MVP season from 2015. And I have that in my notes here that I think if he keeps this up, he could be the favorite and for the MVP award and win his second. My other options were DeGrom and Acuna. But I just went with Bryce because I was really impressed with his stats this year so far.
It wouldn't surprise me if DeGrom. Well, no, I think they do. Well, I don't know if it's player and then pitcher. I don't know if a pitcher can win both pitcher and player of the month. I might be dumb on that.
Well, pitcher of the month, yeah, is easy for the NL, DeGrom. And then for AL, I was going to go Rodon, but I don't want to be biased on both sides. So I'm going to go with the rival and Shane Bieber. He's been lights out this year. He's basically been unhittable. So I'm going with Bieber as the AL pitcher of the month.
A lot of common names here. I think Buxton has been absolutely incredible. What we saw him do in 2020 was like, is that a flash in the pan type thing? Now he's doing it again, and he's doing it better than he was in 2020. I think he probably wins it. The only other one I feel strongly about is I really do think it's going to be Corbin Burns. I don't think you can have a month where you literally do not walk a batter and not win any award for it. But I think for the most part, between Harper and Acuna and Rodon, Cole, Bieber, you got a lot of really good names, or especially on the pitcher side of things. I feel like, as we walk through this first month of these podcasts, I think the topic of conversation more often than not was, did you see what this pitcher did? Did you see what this pitcher did? And it makes it tough on hitters. So as you see these guys who, from a position player side, are really tearing it up, it's rather impressive, especially when like every week we're talking about pitchers.
I really loved Thatcher's pick of Bryce Harper because I feel like Bryce Harper is very underappreciated in the game of baseball, because I feel like everybody's motive is just, hey, Bryce Harper, because he's Bryce Harper. And they just do not want to give him the credit he deserves, because he is unbelievably good at baseball. He is unreal. And he's not getting the credit he deserves, and it makes me very mad.
Yeah, I'm a big Bryce Harper fan.
J-Roy, I hope that makes you a little bit happier having this conversation after a tough Phillies loss.
It does, he walked and singled today. He got on base twice. I'll take it. It's better.
I mean, he only gets on base. That's all he does. It's ridiculous.
He's someone people love to hate, and I completely understand where you're coming from on that.
And people hate him so much that he's so underrated.
Right.
Yeah, the broadcast actually put up a really interesting stat today. I didn't know this. He has seen the least percentage of pitches in the strike zone since the start of 2019.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Teams fear him, as they should. Like, I would not want – there's always the guy in every lineup you don't want to be the one that loses you the game. Whatever lineup Harper's in is always going to be him. Like, you do not want him to be the reason that you lose that game that evening. And it speaks to him as a player. Will, congratulations. First time on, you win. And that means you have bragging rights for Diamond Digest.
Wow. I'm surprised.
Yeah, Will had 3. Thatcher also had 3. You guys tied, actually.
Let's go.
I'll take a tie.
J-Roy, you had 2, so you were just behind.
Hey,
so don't feel too bad.
First time on here, I'll take it.
Yeah, I'll take a tie. That's my first win.
I was just going to say, I think Thatcher, that was your first one too. You've been on here a while, so congratulations on your first one as well.
Thank you.
J-Roy, I'm sorry. I feel like I do something new every time. And...
Poor J-Roy.
It wasn't anything intentional this time. I tried. And...
Hey, J-Roy, you could have had the extra pick if you picked Carlos Rodon, but you didn't want to. Or did you?
I mean, I kind of did.
He kind of did, but I'm like, I don't like giving out a point for that one, because I'm like, okay, I'd probably give it to the person who actually picked all the right winners. But I can retroactively give you a point, J-Roy, if Carlos Rodon does win it. How does that sound?
Hey, you know what? I'll take it. I'll hold you to that, Laz. I will.
Absolutely. You can have it for one of the next episodes.
Do you have a record book of wins in this? Has there ever been a tie?
I don't have all of the records with me, but I think there have been ties.
Okay.
I'm pretty fast and loose.
There's got to be at least one.
I'm pretty lenient with the scoring, despite what people may think.
Cool.
But let's move on to our final segment, where we talk a little bit about what's coming up this week instead of just recapping the last week. So what to watch for. Everyone here is going to pick something that they're going to be watching, whether it's a specific matchup or a team that really hot they want to watch, or a team that's struggling they want to see what happens this next week. So I will turn it over to these fine gentlemen, and we'll start with the 2 winners. We'll go Will and then Thatcher, and then let's see what we got here.
What I am watching for this week is very specific, but the West Coast games this weekend are very enticing. We've got the Dodgers and Angels in Anaheim. We've got the Rays and Athletics in Oakland, and then the Padres and the Giants in San Francisco. Very competitive matchups of teams trying to fight for first place in their divisions, especially the Padres and the Giants, because they just played this past weekend. The Dodgers and the Angels are playing for the first time this year, and the Rays and Athletics, the battle of the Moneyball teams. Should be very exciting.
Some good matchups in there too, trying to figure out, as we start to see who's going to separate from themselves, who's winning these ball games. So all those West Coast games, really good ones. Thatcher, what you watching?
So I got an NL and AL series, and one's at the beginning of the week and one's the weekend series. So for the beginning of the week, it's the Brewers versus Phillies, two teams that have both could be division winners this year. Brewers looking like the favorite so far in the NL Central. Phillies not far behind in the NL East. And even though the Brewers had a bad loss to the Dodgers, I think they still played a very well series against them, I think they took the series from them. And so it's be interesting to see how the teams fare against each other. And then, of course, I'll be watching the White Sox and Royals series this upcoming weekend, which would be a good series because it's a great chance for both teams to really solidify a division lead over the other, with it still being a tight race, as the Royals currently only lead by 1.5 games over the White Sox. So it'll be interesting to see if we start seeing a clear division winner out of that series.
You start seeing how true the Royals really are as a competitor too. J. Roy, what you watching this week?
So I'm going to be watching a player. So Jose Ramirez has had a really, really strong start to the season peripherals wise, but it hasn't translated into a ton of on-field production. I think his luck's starting to turn around a little bit. He does have a 969 OPS, but he is way underperforming all of his expected metrics right now. He has a 435 xWOBA to a 371 WOBA right now. It's like a 60-point difference. Obviously, we are in the early going, but I do think it's kind of interesting. He's striking out career lows while still maintaining a really good walk rate, hitting the ball hard. His savant page is red all over. So I think that I wouldn't be surprised if in a couple weeks here we start talking about Jose Ramirez in the MVP race again, because all the metrics show the fact that he's raking. So I think he's going to start finding some holes, and he's pretty good with the glove always. So yeah, I expect big things from Jose Ramirez the next few weeks.
He's starting to heat it up. In other words,
Yeah.
he went and played the White Sox, and that's usually
He did
what
go
happens.
0 for 4 on
He had like
Saturday.
1 0 for 4, and I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, that was a nice little treat, because that's not how it's going to end up. And I think he had a homer and another hit today, a couple walks, and anytime he comes to town, it's
Hit
like
by pitch.
don't let him be the one that beats you, and he always seems to find a way to beat you. So I think it's a good point. I think Ramirez will be someone that, especially in that Indians lineup, is going to be a main piece of whether or not they even sniff 500 this year. So
I really do feel bad for Jose Ramirez, because for how good he is, he just cannot seem to kind of be that good. Like, he's really good, but he just can't stop finishing like third in MVP voting.
Yeah, it's an underappreciated type of player. That's absolutely
really
true.
is.
Yeah, he's kind of like just like an oddball statistically. Like, he's all over the place, like he had that incredible 2018 season where he was like an 8-win player. And then the first half of 2019, he was god awful. And then the second half, he had like 165 weighted runs created plus or something. Like, he was one of the best teams in the league the second half. And obviously he had an MVP caliber season last year. And, I think he can put an MVP caliber campaign together this year based on, what he's doing so far. So yeah, we'll see.
It's very unfortunate, because last year was probably the best chance he could have had to win an MVP, because in a year where Mike Trout isn't in the conversation, that's your chance. And he no longer has that chance because Mike Trout is back.
Yeah, Mike Trout is certainly back when it comes to that. I think, I don't know. I think he's someone where you just got to be like, you got to take the highs with the lows, because you mentioned it too, Jay, right? Like, he's going to be a streaky hitter at times, as all are, and it feels like his are a little bit more pronounced, like
dramatic. Yeah,
exactly. You're either super hot or you're super cold, and there's no in between with Jose Ramirez. But all very interesting things to watch. Like, a lot of good games are going to be on this weekend. We're hoping you're tuning in, as well as we hope you're tuning in to the rest of the work we're doing at Diamond Digest, whether it's our articles or the Sunday Night Baseball hot mics. We're doing a lot of things, and that's going to do it for us on this podcast. But make sure you tune in when we're I'm doing this every week. We're hoping to do this in maybe a live fashion sometime soon. So we're really trying to add to this to a lot of the good content we're doing. So again, make sure to find us at diamond-digest.com and diamond_digest on Twitter, diamond.digest on Instagram. I am still so surprised I have those all in line. No matter where you go, there's a lot of good content there. And, again, I think I mentioned last week, we added 30 writers. We've got a lot of great content pumping out right now. And as the season gets into its second month, you're going to want to be following our stuff here. So that's going to do it for us for this episode of This Week in Baseball. For Thatcher Zalewski, Jay Roy, Jonathan Roy, and the newcomer Will Arvin, this is Jordan Lazowski signing off. Take care, enjoy your week, and we will talk to you as always next week. See you soon.